Welcome, boils and ghouls, to the Theater of Blood Horror Show podcast number 11?
Yeah,
something like that.
Has a number.
We still have that new car smell on us. Folks, this is a podcast that we don't want to do.
Yeah, and that's Tony. I'm Matt.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You know us. I'm Tony.
Yeah. Sad.
It's a sad day for horror fans in general.
It's been a sad few days.
Yes, we are 3 days out of the death of the master, one of the Mount Rushmore of horror.
I would agree.
George A. Romero. He died Sunday morning, late morning, early afternoon, I believe. Died in his sleep. That's good.
Yeah. Because
he had been fighting a very long, according to his ex-wife, a very long, aggressive battle with lung cancer. So, but he died at 77, and we thought it was our duty, really, to do a tribute show to
this was a must.
Romero.
A must show. And you broke the news to me.
It's like I didn't want to do it. I don't want to be the one to tell Matt this. Romero, before we get into it, Romero is without question an influence to us.
To really anybody.
Growing up, my dad played the original Dawn of the Dead, and I was young and was not allowed to see it, which killed me because I watched these lines around the block, and I'm like, what the hell? I can't go in. And he had the score, and I always looked at the back of the album, and I'm like, come on, I want to see this.
Done
this
by the
great.
fantastic Goblin.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, he was a groundbreaker in many ways. He was one of the first of the slew of midnight films, independent films that made serious money.
Straight out of Pittsburgh.
Straight out of PA.
PA guy.
And he started a whole genre that flourishes even today, and it's even bigger than it ever was. Of course, the zombie genre.
Yeah, zombies are. You look at all the bumper stickers, T-shirts. Everybody is into the zombie craze. But that style of zombie was invented by George Romero.
Right, and I'll say it right now, and then we'll move on. This is a quote from George Romero, and I concur wholeheartedly. Fast zombies suck.
Yeah. I like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. Would I ever choose it over the authentic Dawn of the Dead? No way.
Sure. I mean, if I want to... I think I said this to you the other day. If I want to... I liked Zack Snyder's very respectful remake. But if I want to watch Dawn of the Dead, I'm going to watch Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
So I never need to see it again, really. Yeah.
The movie that probably his best, in my opinion.
It's his masterpiece, in my opinion. It's his... I think I said this to you, too. It's his Goodfellas.
Yeah.
It's his Godfather, Apocalypse Now, whatever you want to look at. It's his On the Waterfront.
Yep.
Everybody has... Every great director has many, but a one that most people agree on that just rises an inch above all the other great stuff they did.
Yeah. And that's not to take away from his groundbreaking original.
No.
And bust into the genre.
Not at all.
Night of the Living Dead, but Dawn of the Dead was the pinnacle.
Dawn of the Dead, yeah. It really is. It's the pinnacle of the zombie genre entire. To this day, there's nothing that will ever be as good as that.
It introduced everything. The fact that you had to be scared of other humans. Just the breakdown of society. Way before you see Rick and Negan and all this bullshit and the governor. It was, it was Machete and, Flyboy and it's just the best damn film. Best damn
Galen
film.
Ross. Really, it is. And it's in my top 5 horror films, and whenever I make out my 100 best films of all time of all genres, it's always in my top 50.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. It's always there.
And I love every cut of it. The extended cut, the American cut, the Italian cut.
Well, the Italian cut's a little long in the tooth at times.
But the Italian cut is pretty brutal.
Yeah,
too.
Well, yeah, you get more.
That was Argento's influence. He's like, I'm going to tweak the music a little bit, make the music a little creepier.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, really go with the gore.
Is that the one that completely takes away the Goblin score except for 2 parts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I was angry. Because that's a very...
Well, no, I don't see why... Argento would take away the Goblin score.
I know that's weird because he brought Goblin to Romero, but I don't know. Anyway.
Well, Argento is another master of horror for me, and Argento helped a lot with the creation.
No, he
of Dawn of
did,
the Dead.
and he helped with the worldwide distribution.
He heard that George was making a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, and what he did was he said, come to Italy, come to Rome, I'll set you up in a flat, I'll give you all the privacy you need.
And he did it.
And he did.
He went in there and popped that script out in a week or two.
And they met once a day for lunch, and Romero said this, he said Argento was a consummate host.
Yeah.
He asked him every day how things were going, but didn't ask him for any details.
Yeah.
He didn't want any spoilers. He himself was a fan who couldn't wait to see this film.
Yeah, I know.
And that's awesome,
And that is great. And that also speaks to, because Argento had at least 6 or 7 films under his belt by then.
Yeah, very successful.
And that speaks to the genius
Deep
of...
Red, his 2 best films had already come out by that point.
That speaks to the genius of what Romero did with Night of the Living Dead. I mean, it's a film that got thrown into drive-ins and then just word of mouth and then midnight shows when they used to do that. And it became one of the all-time classic horror... It is one of the all-time classic horror films.
It was a benchmark. It took things to a new level. There was visceral violence and, it's tame by today's standards.
It's tame by today's standards, but imagine seeing that in 1968.
Nothing like that.
Like, Jesus
in a
Christ,
black
did she
and
just
white
pull a bug
film.
off a tree and eat it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eating meat off the bone and pulling intestines out of stomachs and...
Sure.
Matricide and all sorts of stuff pops up in there. And,
that's right.
Man, and then the undertones of social commentary that he includes in all his films.
Exactly, and he's a pioneer of the zombie genre, and he is a pioneer of the social commentary in your horror movies.
And
he started that, and he did it till the day he died.
And it's not spoon-fed to you.
No, it's not. You gotta. It's there.
But it's there. It's definitely there.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, he was a pioneer in so many ways. But yeah, we need to do like 9 shows of it.
I know.
George Romero. I don't think for this one we should break down his movies one by one, but we'll just chat about them. But a good place to start is Night of the Living Dead, his first one. Yeah, I mean,
they're coming to get you, Barbara.
When we were on vacation, my family and I, we went to the Rock and Roll Hotel 2 years ago, or Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, 2 years ago. And on the way back, we stopped at the Zombie Museum and in PA, and we went to the graveyard where we filmed it. Took pictures of me and my son being silly. We did the Judith pose, or Barbara is a
Barbara.
Yeah, Judith is her real name, but and I tell you, just driving up the driveway to the cemetery, which is the first shot of the film, and that weird, almost non-music, like a creepy. And I'm thinking, just driving up there, and it was a I think it was a Sunday afternoon. We're driving. I'm like, it's creepy, and I could hear the music, and I could feel the movie, and not just because I was there, but excuse me, you could. He created this tangible aura of grotesqueness, of creepiness, and it all started with that opening shot with that music / non-music, and the car driving up, and the simple credits, and you're like, first time you see it, what's.
And what I love about that movie is that it has subtlety and it has abrasiveness.
It does indeed, yeah.
And it doesn't waste any time getting rolling. I mean, they're visiting the grave of their parents, and then zombie comes up, and bam, it's started.
Yeah.
And she's on the run, she's on the lam.
And it's subtle, and because he didn't really fully zombie that guy up, the first time you see it, excuse me, we're almost, the audience, we're not sure well, maybe it's just some weird dude.
Yeah.
What's going on? Night of the Living Dead, but he looks living. Ergo, that's why she walks right past him.
Exactly.
She kind of tucks her head in her coat and walks right past, because she's like, he's just a weirdo. I'm going to smile at him and move on.
Right.
And he grabs her, and yeah. It's such a masterful film in so many ways. It needs to be taught, and I'm sure it has been in film schools on pacing, on atmosphere, on everything,
and the way he used his camera. You know, he's not using a lot of giant tricks, but his angles are very unsettling. You know, you know, pretty much shooting from the floor at an upward angle, shooting up high, shooting above.
Yeah.
Always a kind of skewed corner a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And everything we've just talked about, the brilliance of building the atmosphere and the shots and getting us ready and doing all that, we're speaking of the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
He does all of that in that cemetery. He uses that cemetery. He doesn't just use it as an establishing place.
Yeah, it's part of the film.
He uses this, and as we're walking around, we pulled up scenes of the movie on our phones to make sure we get the right, and then we found a website that leads you there. And as we're walking around going to the correct tombstones...
Did you see people chasing Pokemon while you're out there?
No, it wasn't around yet. As we were doing that, the atmosphere is coming back, you know, and I'm like, wow, he walked around here. He got this shot here and that shot there. And again, it wasn't just cool, we're where he shot it. He saw this and he said, let me come at it from this angle. Because a lot of the shots, once the lightning strikes and he does they're coming to get you, Barbara, and then you see the zombie first walking around, his camera angles get a bit askew.
Right.
Larger, smaller, twisted, tilted.
Right.
And it's just fantastic what he did in that whole opening sequence. And like I said, we just talked about all these great things. It's the opening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A fantastic film, one he did with virtually no budget.
Sure. No budget. He had come off of industrial films. He had a little company that did industrial training films.
Yeah.
And safety films.
And he had done one short, I think.
Yeah, one little, yeah.
And then, you know, he pulled together a very, very meager budget and managed to just hit a home run because what he did was so large with so little. I mean, if you talk about the zombie genre, it was this world that could open up and go in any direction. And yeah, it does stay in a small location being centered at the house and the farm.
Right.
But, you know that the whole world is crawling now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm always a big fan of horror that doesn't show you everything, too. You know, when you show too much, sometimes it can ruin things. I'm also, you know, I like John Carpenter. He's like, yeah, sometimes there's the other train of thought, too. Show them everything.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And make it really horrific.
Exactly.
John Carpenter makes every show.
Yeah, he does. You're right. But, I mean, 1968, all that was going on in the country. And Romero says, the hero's going to be a black guy. And about halfway through, he's going to smack her to calm her down.
Yeah. White leading lady, black starring male. First time
Dwayne Jones.
Ever in film. This guy was not just groundbreaking in the film that he made, he was groundbreaking in his thought process on what was right and wrong.
Well, yeah, and he also said, I didn't say we're going to put a black guy in the lead. He said he was the best one that read.
Yeah,
he was right for the role.
Best actor.
And unlike other people who were around him said, ooh, that's going to be a firestorm. He's like, look, he's just my lead.
Yeah,
I'm not casting him because of his color. And in 1968, that was rebel. That was a very rebellious thing to do.
It was.
Because most people would have said, oh, you're right. Maybe we should go with someone else. Because on page blah, 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 he slaps her in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Fantastic film.
It is. And I mean, we won't get into all the, you know, and then they did this, and they got the meat from the meat guy. And
right,
this,
this
you know,
isn't a review, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just, I love the, there's an underscoring theme in it once the zombies get a moving on the farmhouse. and it's subtle. It's just a little drum beat. It's like dung 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 dung. It's almost danceable, and it goes on and comes and goes. I mean, it's this.
And it was he was influenced by the book that I Am Legend is based off of.
Yeah, he was influenced by that.
He was influenced by that. Only he tweaked it and he made it his own.
And he was a big Bergman fan that shaped a lot of his shots as well. A little bit of his vision. Wes Craven would go on to really do Bergman later.
Right.
But yeah, it's I mean, to come out of the gate with Night of the Living Dead, and a lot of people look back now, boy, that's really cheap. Well, yeah, it was shot on the cheap, but it's effective and it's tight, and there's nothing like it. Still, nothing like it.
Groundbreaking. And then he proceeded to try to jump the genre. He didn't
work.
And he had a few films that he didn't care for so much.
Well, one of them.
One he didn't care for, and the other one he thought suffered from a low budget.
Well, they called it Season of the Witch.
Yeah.
But it's not a horror film per se.
No.
He was trying to do a commentary on the end of a marriage and a woman trying to... But it's from the guy who did Night of the Living Dead, so let's... I can't... The title escapes me.
The one before Season of the Witch?
Yeah.
Before Season of the Witch was... Jeez, I just looked at it today.
But anyway, I mean...
I haven't seen the film.
We won't bore them while we look it up, but...
But then...
the Crazies, if you go back and look at it... I love the Crazies. A lot of people say it's just too low budget to enjoy. And it is.
Very low budget.
It's tight. I know I just said that about Night of the Living Dead, but that's one of the great things about him. I mean, once the military starts swarming in on that town and trying to...
Yeah.
They don't really try too hard to figure out who's crazy and who's not. They just start shooting.
Right.
It's really, really well done. And again, what he did on a small budget was... I think The Crazies is a very good film.
Pretty triumphant.
I think it rises above its budget. It's 73.
73.
Yeah, 73.
So 5 years senior.
And before we get into what I call his underrated and undervalued masterpiece, Season of the Witch, before that he did There's Always Vanilla.
Yeah.
Which I never saw.
Apparently about a boy who shacks up with an older woman and kind of learns to depend on her financially, emotionally.
Yeah.
And,
And I've never seen it. I will.
I think now
is a good time to try to catch that. Yeah. Season of the Witch I saw on VHS. It was bad. It was bad. That's the one. I mean, it is a horror film, but it's not. She gets involved in witchcraft.
Right.
But
he's a tarot card reader she goes to visit.
Yeah.
And her daughter's turning 19 and leaving the house, and her husband's kind of a businessman who pays no attention to her.
I mean, it's okay. But it's funny because he worked on a documentary in '74 called O.J. Simpson, The Juice is on the Loose.
The Juice is on the Loose.
If only we would have listened. Right.
He was talking about, he was making films about killers even back then.
He sure was. And that's right, folks. You're hearing it live. We are of the mind O.J. did it. And you know who else knows O.J. did it? O.J.
O.J. knows.
He knows he fucking did it. Anyway, Martin, 1978, technically 76. It sat on shelf there. Martin, his vampire, not vampire movie.
I love
Martin's
that
brilliant.
movie.
May I just say it's my dad's second favorite, next to Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Shout out to my pops. Yeah, Martin is so good. As you saw, I posted on our podcast, on our Facebook page for Theater of Blood, I posted the original Martin trailer.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Martin is so good. And here's where Romero first showed me that this man can write a good screenplay. Here's the thing about Martin. It's psychological. Or is it?
Yeah.
It's subtle, but kind of creepy and edgy, and
And at the end of it, is he not a vampire?
It's a film that makes you wonder for, I think it's right at 2 hours. Is this kid crazy or is he a vampire? Yeah. And then when you leave the movie, you're saying, well, is this kid crazy or was he a vampire? We don't know.
And doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it doesn't matter. Martin doesn't know, frankly.
No, he's...
It's a great film. I love Martin. I love it to death.
And really you're right. It's a subtle play, but at the same time, it's not afraid to jump out at you either.
No, it's not. And one thing I love that he did with Martin is, and when I haven't seen it in years, but I saw it like 7 times on VHS. My dad and I just fell in love with it. But when I think of Martin, I think of shadows and just a little bit of light, like doors opening and light coming through the door just enough, or lights being shut off in a huff. It's really subtle. It's really, he plays with shadow and he plays with darkness, and again, social commentary. The way they deal with Martin. The kid didn't get the help he needed, and he'd really be in trouble today.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a fascinating film. I don't want to spoil too much because I know a lot of...
Yeah, it goes off the springboard.
Yeah, I know a lot of people haven't seen it. So I really recommend Martin. It's
one of my favorite films of his.
It is. It really... It's
that's not in the zombie genre.
Yeah, I believe it's my 4th favorite, 3rd favorite. I can't remember. I listed them the other day, and I can't remember. But it was in my top 5. Yeah, I love Martin. Martin's great.
Yep. And then his triumphant return.
Yeah, and then, like we were talking about, Dawn of the Dead came right there.
And, just really... And you were talking about locations. That's one I wish I could have seen when it was still the way it was. The Monroeville Mall.
Exactly.
That would have been
Do you know
really
that
cool
Monroeville put up... I put this up on my page, too.
That they
the billboard. They put up a billboard. In
awesome.
honor of Romero.
They did that after his passing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. He put them on the map, frankly.
Exactly.
Little tiny nothing town, and no offense to all you Monroeville listeners, but at the time, nobody cared.
One horse town.
Yeah, literally. We were there. We didn't go in the mall, but we were there. We drove by it. Like, yeah.
That's where it was.
It looks as gloomy as it did in Dawn of the Dead. It really does. It's just, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he did Dawn of the Dead, and he was already big for Night of the Living Dead, but he made bad business decisions, and unfortunately, to this day, he's working on, now it'll be his estate working on getting the special edition out, and I pray to God Romero already recorded his interviews and commentary, but he made bad business decisions in '68 and lost the rights to Night of the Living Dead. So
yeah,
that's why he was kind of stuck in low budgetville up until Dawn of the Dead, and then Dawn of the Dead really.
It was his.
I was too young to know, but it was mammoth. My dad had lines around the block at his theater, and I'm telling you, people were. And, the famous stories like The Exorcist, people throwing up, and you've never...
Oh, yeah.
Savini's Effects, you've never seen anything like that before.
Not to mention the huge outpour from the public that wanted to be a part of helping this movie.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead resonated with so many people that he got almost all those beginning establishing shots of military and tanks and all the operations going on that you see as they're flying overhead in the helicopter.
Right.
He got all of that for free.
Yeah.
These people wanted to help. When they heard that he was making a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, people wanted to be zombies way before this craze of wanting to get on The Walking Dead and be a zombie.
Exactly. And here's what I'm glad you brought that up. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't want to lose this point. I talk about this a lot when I talk about The Walking Dead or any zombie. Romero's zombies in Night of the Living Dead, they were all, imagine the shots of them walking and
Yeah.
Everybody's different. And Dawn of the Dead, everybody's batshit different.
Right. I mean,
just different ways of doing things.
Oh, the way he, starting off in the ghetto, then having the little kids.
Yeah. But I mean, every zombie, no zombie walks, acts, rips you apart the same way.
Right.
Day of the Dead, Bub is different from the zombies outside the gates.
Yep.
And so on and so on in the other Dead films. Walking Dead. Every fucking zombie walks the same way, and I saw behind the scenes and when they get hired, they go to zombie camp, and every one of them, tell me I'm wrong, I'm not. Every one of them, they do the little shifty walk, but they drop one. They drop one arm. One arm is dropped. It's either the left or the right, and it's dropped. And whatever arm is dropped, their head is tilted that way, and every single fucking zombie walks the same way, and I hate it. I don't hate The Walking Dead. I hate that.
Right. And, there should be some that are pretty fresh. They're unscathed. They look pretty clean.
Yeah.
And they can walk pretty normal.
But they don't. They all walk because they all went to the zombie school.
And that was the thing that was scary is that, this guy standing next to you could be a zombie.
Exactly.
You don't know that he just had a heart attack and died.
Yeah.
And, in The Walking Dead, if they change... Their facial features change. They become more sunken in.
Yeah, it's immediate decomposition. Yeah. It's immediate. Like, rigor mortis is like, boom, here I am.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't set in. It's just there. Yeah, and it's like, then they stand up, drop the shoulder, tilt the head, and come a-walking.
Yep.
Like, what? I hate that, and I'm so glad you brought that up. But I can't stand that. Because I look at Dawn of the Dead, especially, as the best example. The subtleties. You have the guy who grabs the gun, and for the rest of the movie, he's holding the gun. Like, what do I do with this gun? You have the great zombie trying to get up the escalator.
Yeah.
It's genius.
And that there were
the nurse, the nun, everybody's different. Everybody walks differently.
And that's the thing is there was commentary that there were some things ingrained in our brain. There was still some sort of brain function going on.
Yeah.
They were driven to the mall.
Well, that's the great line.
And it was a state on our consumeristic
well, of
nature,
course, yeah.
which is more true now than ever. We need our new stuff. We need our iPad. I need my Fitbit. I need my spinner.
He was ahead of his time in his prediction. And let me tell you, Edgar Wright in Sorry Folks,
Shaun of the Dead,
his only great film, Sorry Folks, and yes, that includes Baby Driver. His only perfect film, Shaun of the Dead, yeah. But that's the great. He's tipping his hat to Romero in many ways. But when he's going to work, and everybody, at the beginning, everybody's zombie-like, getting their coffee, riding the bus.
Yeah.
And then later, when he's going to work and everybody's a zombie, he doesn't know because that's what we are now.
Right.
That's what we are. So he doesn't notice.
Right. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and
obviously
that
that's
alone,
a tribute to Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Even the name, Shaun of the Dead, it's a tribute.
That alone speaks to the genius of one Mr. George A. Romero. And I still use the A.
Yeah.
Because it's cool.
Is that Alan? George
I
Allen?
Don't really know. I don't know that I've ever examined.
I wonder if we can find that out. But
Aloysius, perhaps?
Aloysius. Whatever it is.
Aloysius Romero.
George Amazing Romero.
Yeah, really. George, shit, he's not around anymore, Romero. But no, that's his commentary, subtle and not subtle at the same time. It's just...
Yeah, that's really a pinnacle.
Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead is a classic. It's genius. Dawn of the Dead is a masterpiece. A masterpiece. And forget horror. It's a masterpiece.
Right.
Look what he does. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It feels like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And there's so much that happens, and we care about every moment. Every moment.
From them banding together to become a little family, finding the location to hold out at, the being overrun at the end by the bikers. Because Tom Savini, who was good friends with George and who couldn't be a part of Night of the Living Dead because he was in Vietnam.
He was in Vietnam, yeah.
At the time. When he came back, George, of course made him the point man. And not only was that a good decision because that was his friend, it was a good decision because of all the things that he had experienced over in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he was able to bring the horrible things that he saw.
Sure.
And turn it into something that benefited the film, and the brutality and the gore in it was, it pushed it up another notch. People hadn't seen, just like they hadn't seen the gore that was in Night of the Living Dead. They hadn't seen what was in Dawn of the Dead.
I remember I first saw Dawn of the Dead on, was it Beta? I'm not sure if Beta was around yet. I saw it on home video because, of course, I was young. My dad wouldn't let me watch it, and I think I was 12, 13 when I first saw it. And I had just recently seen The Exorcist for the first time. I had seen Halloween a couple of years prior because that was mellow, tame, I should say, compared to... And let me tell you, I had never seen anything, like you said. Like we said, imagine experiencing Night of the Living Dead in 68.
Yeah.
We would have been blown away. That's how I was, and unfortunately I've seen it on the big screen a few times since, but unfortunately the first 900 times I saw it was on video because it was on a loop in our house for many, many moons.
Betamax, the better format.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell you, I was just, what am I watching, Dad? And he said, I don't know, but isn't it great? Because he had seen it a gazillion times already at the theater. Son of a bitch. Why don't you love me, Dad? I'm yelling at the pillow. Yeah, it's a masterpiece, and I don't care about genre. It's a masterpiece of filmmaking. It's an epic zombie film set in a mall.
And, you believe everybody who's in there.
Yeah, you care about...
Ken Foree,
for the longest
Scott
time...
Reiniger,
for the longest time, Flyboy, you're like, God damn it, he's an idiot.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden, God damn it, I love Flyboy. And then just the minute you start loving him, he takes him away from us.
Yep.
And one of the greatest, I'm sorry to interrupt you, one of the greatest shocks in horror history. I don't mean a jump scare. I don't mean a scare. I mean your jaw drops when that elevator opens.
Yep.
And he could have the best zombie walk of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a gun on his finger, his foot's twisted.
And
how the hell he did that? And he's talked about it. He did that. He did his foot, and he said I fell over 100 times.
He's like, but he knew what he wanted to do.
Yeah, but for me, that could be one of the greatest shocks. We should do a show on greatest shocks in horror. That's got to be in the top 2.
That elevator opens and you just
and then that music,
you shit your pants.
And it's so genius.
Yeah.
Those, what is there, 50 zombies clawing at that door because they know he's in there, and the elevator opens and he's been bit and he's turned, and all the zombies just stop.
And then just turn around.
And he's all of a sudden the Pied Piper and leading them to the wall.
Yeah.
God damn it. I think I may watch this tonight, or maybe not tonight, but tomorrow. I want to see it again. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, I have the special edition.
As do I. Yeah, exactly.
I like the little comic book that came.
Me too. Yeah, I like the big. It's one of the great. Unfortunately, it's not. We need that edition on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the DVD edition, but who gives a shit? That's all we have right now. Let's roll with it. I got the Blu-ray, and it's not a great transfer.
Yeah.
Because it's
fantastic
not a
film.
Yeah, it's just again, we say this about a lot of films. Dawn of the Dead could be its own podcast. It could be its own show.
And then
do a show.
If I'm not mistaken, Day
was next.
Was
but
the
in between
follow. Well, okay, so there
don't forget.
Was it Creep?
It sure was.
Okay, so Creep
Show, yeah.
Creep Show was in between.
It's my second favorite Romero film.
It's Dawn of the Dead's better. But sure. I can't say that I don't love Creep Show more. I don't know.
There's a lot of people, and I know he listens, so Kyle, I don't mean this in a bad way, because my friend Brian, another film fan, is the same way. And I've heard a couple other people say this, but they like to separate well, this is his best film, but this is my favorite.
Right.
In my opinion, if I call something my favorite, then I think it's his best.
Right.
Like 2001 and Clockwork are my two favorite movies. Ergo, they're what I think are Kubrick's two best films.
Right.
Taxi Driver, my favorite Martin. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that must be.
I can hear what you're saying.
I hear both sides though, but I can't think that way.
But for me, Creepshow has a fun factor to it that's undeniable.
It really
It was
does.
definitely more fun.
Really,
you know what I mean? Dawn of the Dead's not very fucking fun.
Dawn of the Dead.
There are moments.
There are fun moments in it.
There are moments,
sure,
but it's
right.
just overall
Yeah,
dark and ominous.
It is. And guess what? There's no much like night and day and land and so on. There's not a happy ending. Yeah, they get away.
Happy.
Where they going?
It's just like
yeah.
You know, it's almost like a prolonging the inevitable type situation.
They're going to find another place to hold up until the zombies crash in again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And start running from one place
She's
to another.
She's going to give birth to a child during this mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. The great Galen Ross. The great, underused, and rarely heard from again Galen Ross.
Yeah.
It's time for Rob Zombie or Quentin Tarantino to come a-calling.
Exactly. Bring her back.
Yeah.
But Creepshow, man, it hit at the right time for me in my youth.
Me too.
The crate scared the crap out of me.
The crate, yeah. How old were you when it came out? This is fun. I like to play this game. Makes me want to hang myself.
When did it come out? It was
1982.
It was 82 when it came out.
Uh-huh.
So I was 4.
Great. I was 12.
12.
Sack of shit.
Right.
Yeah. No, I was almost 13. There's a great picture, of course, on Christmas morning. Your parents take pictures.
Yeah.
And my Christmas. My parents, I love them both, not because of this, but and we do this with our son now, they gave me more than I probably need. Well, these are Santa's, and these are ours, you know. And I'm like, wow. And then as you get older, you're like, hey, wait a minute. I used to get way more than that. No. But they got me so much stuff, and they always and I was, at that time, my brother was only 2, so I was king.
Right.
And they always took a picture. I would sit in the middle of all my gifts opened up, and, you know, albums and laser discs and toys, and I would hold up my favorite one. And that Christmas following, I held up the soundtrack to Creepshow. Out of all this Star Wars toys and this and that, and I remember my dad saying, "That's your favorite gift?" He's right now. I was so, and I'm just cheesing, holding up the album, this Creepshow. Yeah, great score, by the way.
I love the score. I love the score so much that the first short that I did that didn't actually get released.
Herbert?
No, Herbert I put out on YouTube.
Oh yeah, you did.
Before that, I did I used to want to do silly movies that were mostly humor, but kind of based off what I love, horror films.
Silly movies that were humor?
Yeah, exactly. So Peeping Herbert, the Zombie Pervert. Feel free to look it up.
I like to do horror films that are scary.
Which broke over 80,000.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah, check it out.
So I did one before that called Dickula, about a monster that hunted men in the woods to rape them with dick hands. And
surprised that didn't go anywhere.
Well, I never released it.
Did you rip off Edward Penis Hands?
Oh no, I think I did it before.
Yeah, right.
But I definitely used that soundtrack because it's almost silly but still scary.
I tell you what, I always complain about. Yeah. I always complain about modern scores, that they're not memorable and nobody knows how to use a piano. It's like, it's time to be sad. One strum of a key. Ding. You know.
Yeah.
Now you're sad. Are we happy? Ding.
Yeah, exactly.
The piano in Creepshow is fantastic. Like he always starts the wing, and then it's like dun dun dun. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's Carpenter-esque mixed with little Wagner, if you will.
And if we're going to talk about the film, you know, this film we'll spend a little time on because it's one of the best. It was him working together with another one of the greatest ever, which is
Ted
Stephen
Danson.
King. Yes, he did work with Ted Danson.
And Galen Ross.
And Galen Ross. And
Leslie
Adrian
Nielsen.
Barbeau. and Hal Halbrook, and Ed Harris,
Right,
and Leslie Nielsen.
Beatrice Straight, yeah.
I mean, great film. But him and Stephen King, it was their love letter to the old EC comics.
Yeah. And you know what?
And EC comics were the horror comics, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, Weird Tales.
In my opinion, and I'm not just saying this because this is our tribute show, and Matt's wondering why I'm walking around pacing. My back hurts.
No worries.
We're in the studio. I got room to move. Of all of the Tales of the Crypt, from the Crypt, all of those shows, and again, I'm not just saying this
because Tales from the Dark Side.
Yeah, I'm not just saying this because this is our tribute show to George, but it's the most successful, I think. The TV shows had more because they had all the episodes.
Right, no, but the
Creep Show,
it had everything that Tales from the Crypt was built off of from there.
And he kept the colors. The
bad guys get their comeuppance at the end.
Yeah,
it's
they do.
Always a morality tale.
Yeah.
It deals with the supernatural. It deals with, all sorts of stuff. And it went across the gambit. I mean, the first one is about a zombie. The second one is about a plant that grows all over the world. The third one is, I think that was the Crate.
That's the Crate. And
which
then
scared the fuck out of me. Oh my god!
I tell you what, and this is a true story. I don't like bugs.
Yeah. I think that gave me a phobia.
I was going to say yes. I never had a problem with bugs until I saw Creepshow.
And then in
roaches.
the middle, they are kind of zombies, but they're aqua zombies.
Oh, I forgot about
Yeah, Ted Danson.
Ted and Galen Ross.
Galen Ross
and heavy
Leslie
makeup.
Nielsen.
Sorry.
Yep.
And Leslie Nielsen.
Gotta hold your breath there, Harry.
Yeah. That's and here's the thing. I love the film entire, and that's a good one. But that could have, if we had to lose one.
I still like, but
no, it's great.
All of it fits together.
What I love, mind you, every single moment of Creepshow is classic to me. But what I love, he starts everything. He starts every episode in a comic book frame.
Yeah, it'll flip
swipes,
the page, and then
it ends in a
real.
comic book frame at the end.
Yeah.
And the last shot of everybody getting their comeuppance in every episode, except doesn't happen in Lonesome Death of Jodie Vora because it's tragic.
Yeah, where
everybody
King
he has the reaction shot
main person.
and the red and yellow and blue behind him.
Oh my god!
Yeah. It's fantastic, man.
I love that movie.
Creepshow is.
What's his name?
It's awesome.
Who was the what's his name? The other guy from the Crate. Hal Halbrook.
Hal Holbrook and Fritz Weaver.
Fritz Weaver.
Yeah.
Fritz Weaver, who was
the great Fritz Weaver
from Reanimator. The head that gives head.
Yeah.
The head that gives head.
That was the gift that keeps on. that was 2 years later. Yeah. Another one of my dad's favorites.
I still love Reanimator. Yeah. I mean, it took the creepy story by H.P. Lovecraft and totally made it a satire.
Yeah, it did.
It's borderline hilarious at the same time. It's legitimately creepy.
It is.
And it totally ripped off the Psycho soundtrack and changed
one
note.
On purpose, yeah, right.
Changed one note.
Yeah, I know. That's funny.
And that's kind of like Vanilla Ice saying, no, this isn't under pressure.
It goes
dun 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 dun. Mine goes dun 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 dun.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. But no, Creepshow, another masterpiece in my opinion. In my opinion, he's done 3 masterpieces. We've talked about them.
Yep.
Martin isn't a masterpiece, but it's a great film.
Martin's great, and I thoroughly enjoy The Crazies.
Yeah, The Crazies, that's, I'm not saying 4 stars.
Yeah, but I thoroughly enjoy it. And then he returns.
He does.
Day of the Dead.
Now, I'll be honest.
It has flaws.
Well, it still does. At the time, I was with the rest of the world like, what the hell is this? This isn't right. This ain't right.
It's all in a bunker underground.
It's all messed up, and everybody's yelling and giving bad performances.
But you go and you rewatch it, and you're like, holy shit. The gore, top notch. Definitely pushed the limits with that
I think that was my problem as, 85?
Yeah,
as a 15-year-old.
Oh.
I'm like, it's not enough gore.
But I remember watching, the scene where the one asshole, speaking of getting your comeuppance,
by the way, he
gets his comeuppance.
He'll never listen to this, I hope. He is an asshole.
Oh, no, he is an asshole.
In real life. At the conventions.
I have an experience with him.
Oh, you do?
Personally.
Do tell.
Okay, so whatever his name is, I don't really
we don't
care.
give a shit.
By the time... so when I went to... It was a dead-themed horror festival. So they had people there from night, dawn, day.
Did you go in the night, the dawn, or the day? I'm just sorry,
the
folks.
day. And so I was there.
I feel like a game show host walking around.
You know, I'd watched a few of the films they were playing. I hit the trades room, and then I went downstairs, and I hit the downs. They had downstairs celebrities and they had upstairs celebrities, and I was rather broke at the time. Money went fast. I had nothing left by the time it was time. That I went upstairs, and I went up pretty much just as the celebrities were about to leave, because the crowd had thinned out significantly. And so I decided to go up there at that point. And I'm walking around and I'm meeting people, and everybody's happy to just say hello and shake a hand. Except for I walk up to him and I'm like, oh, hey, man, And I was like, I don't have any money left. And he looks at me and goes, that sucks.
Yeah.
And I have a very similar experience, unfortunately, with Tom Savini. But I'll forgive him because he's the man.
And he has since apologized to his fans around the...
He did say, and I know that's right around the time that CG was taking over and his jobs were drying up. And that sucks because he's making authentic art. But this other guy, he's just lucky Romero chose to cast him in anything.
And he looks every bit the sleazeball that he played.
He is. He was a douche. Now... On the other side of that coin.
Can I introduce this?
Yeah.
Matt's horrible story relating to Joseph Pilato from Day of the Dead.
Pilato.
Is balanced and buried by a wonderful and heartwarming story regarding George Romero on the same subject.
This was literally so... I visited around the room, sectioned off in his own little corner, of course.
Yeah, anybody who's been at any of these conventions, and if you haven't, George Romero has a table.
Yeah, no, I mean, like...
it's his corner.
Line,
and a line for days.
Everything.
Yeah, anyway.
And so, it's the end of it. They're getting close to wrap up, and I'm like, you know what? There he is. I'm going to go over and say hi. And so I walk up, and, of course, because he's the big name, he's got a personal handler there. Mm-hmm. And his handler comes up, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And it's like, look, I don't have any money left, but I just wanted to go up and say hi. And he's like, oh, well, he's really busy right now, and it's, he's got things to do. And I'm like, look, he's right there. I just want to walk over and say hi. And the guy's like, all right, just be brief, just being a douche, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh, you're a fan? Go say hi. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Go say hi.
Let's go say hi to the guy.
He's just being a smarmy little bitch.
A schmuck. You wanted to say schmuck? I'll say it.
And so I walk up, and I had a poster I had bought, and I had gotten people to sign it earlier. And, I ran out of money. I never thought I could afford to... I would have probably spent my lot on what they were charging for George.
George was a little pricey. I'm wearing a George Romero T-shirt from my visit.
Right.
And he said, "Do you want me to sign it?" And I'm like, it's there. I don't want to pay another $30 no offense. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
So I walk up, and he goes, "Hey there, you got something for me to sign?" I was like, I'm out of money, man. I'm a little broke right now. I just wanted to come and say thank you for all the great films that you've done. He said, give me that poster. And I was like, oh, cool, and I was like, you really don't have to. And he's like, yeah, give it to me. And I start handing the poster over to him, and his douchebag of a handler starts walking over going, hey, he didn't pay any money. And I swear to God, George looks at him with disdain and goes, and waves his hand at him like, fuck off. And just puts the poster on his table and signs it. I posted this to
to our page, yeah.
To our page with said
It's a great story. I've heard
signature. And, and he gave me a hearty handshake afterwards, looked me right in the eye. Just a solid dude. I couldn't have walked out of there with a better impression of a celebrity. He made my day. I was so happy. Oh, Jesus, it's making me sad right now.
Yeah, it's sad.
Jesus, like he really...
On my Roger Moore, hey, feel free, on my Roger Moore Goodbye podcast that I did for Widescreen, I got choked up at the end.
Yeah, man. No, he was just a solid dude. And, like,
he really
films made such an impression on me. I love horror movies so much. And so much of what he did scoped what I love and the people that came after him that made movies that I love. He was an influence on other directors. He was the coolest of the cool.
And you know what? I know. Another great thing about Romero, I'm talking about his influences, and he was that nice guy. Everybody says he was exactly what you see. Very serious on set, but fun. Laughing it up at the conventions, having a good time. But he also wasn't afraid to, he said, yeah, I like the Dawn of the Dead remake, but fast zombies are stupid because they can't think to run, ergo, fast zombies suck. And he was very vocal in his dislike for The Walking Dead because he says, well, I tune in to see zombies and I get a drama for 45 minutes and 5 minutes of zombies. And I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Look, George, no offense, but the middle of Day of the Dead isn't exactly Raiders of the Lost Ark either. And
you are talking about probably the highest rated show on television.
Yeah, that's right. But and look, I'm no Walking Dead fanboy. I like it.
Yeah,
some seasons are better than others, but he wasn't afraid to do it. But he never did it like fuck that show.
Yeah.
He was always I don't like it. There's too much drama.
They asked him my cup of tea.
They asked him twice. To direct, you must direct something, and he said, "I'm sorry, I can't do it." No. I hope he said, because all your zombies lean to the left. It's like the Thriller video. I'm like, what are they going to do? But I always thought that was good because he never really said, flip the bird to the show. He just, no, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like the show. I'm touched. He didn't say this, but I'm sure he's saying, I'm touched that you are tipping your hat to me, but, whatever.
And that's Robert Kirkman. Even the comic, was definitely influenced by George.
Oh, yeah. But, and before we, get to the end, I just wanted to, we'll eventually do a Of the Dead episode, and that's probably what we'll call it.
Yeah.
And talk about all of them.
And we can quickly
and
go
the varying degrees of success.
He went on to do, after that, Land, and then...
Land of the Dead was the big comeback that everybody was waiting for, and it disappointed a lot of people.
But it wasn't bad.
But it wasn't bad. I liked it. I gave it a solid 3 stars.
Martin Sheen. Not Martin Sheen.
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper was good in it.
And Eugene Clark. John
Leguizamo. I like John Leguizamo, though.
I've always loved him.
He's underrated.
Very quickly, Summer of Sam should have had an Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
One of Spike Lee's best films.
And he has 2 of the best stand-ups that aren't stand-up for
funny, they're performance art.
It's performance art.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
It's like Whoopi Goldberg's early work.
Freak were tremendous.
Oh yeah, Sexaholic's funny too.
Yeah, Sexaholic was good too.
And Spike Lee directed those. Speaking of which, they're friends.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not sure if he did the first one, but he did the rest.
Yeah. And this guy kind of started as Benny Blanco from the Bronx.
Well, he's before that, but actually, no, that's really what broke him. Land of the Dead, Eugene Clark. That's not right.
He had kind of a silent role in, was it Air Force One? Not Air Force One.
Leguizamo.
Leguizamo was in
Executive Decision.
Executive Decision.
Yeah.
And he said Steven Seagal.
His story of Seagal is great.
Yeah. He was like, he was a dick, and he just hurt me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he was just like, he was a dick, but I will not say it to his face, because he's also deadly.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, because he was not, like, I don't know why I'm talking about Seagal, but I'll just
I have no idea how we got here, yeah.
But I will say this. Out of all the pseudo-martial artists in movies, he was for real. Van Damme came from a ballet background. And because he could stretch and move and do things like that with a little bit of martial arts, but he wasn't a fighter. No. He was a dancer, and so he could choreograph great fight scenes in a movie. Steven Seagal was a master.
He was a master.
Trained in Japan.
Like a fifth Dan, I believe.
Fifth Dan. And he got to the point where if people came to train, they're like, yeah, go talk to the white boy. They're like, no, we want the real training. They're like, yeah, go talk to the white boy. He's the best.
Which reminds me, rest in peace, George Romero.
Yep. Jesus.
No, I know. It's fine. We get off on... Eugene Clark, who played Big Daddy in Land of the Dead, the quote-unquote lead zombie,
right,
wrote a beautiful little couple-paragraph tribute to George on his Facebook page. I suggest everybody friend or at least read Eugene Clark's Facebook page tribute to George Romero, because it was very nice. Very nice. But yeah, Land of the Dead was fine. Diary of the Dead, I didn't like the fact that old George jumped on the bandwagon of the shaky cam.
Yeah.
But I liked the film. There were some good scares. There were some good setups. I was just over shaky cam by then.
Right.
So that hurt it for me.
And I will admit, I haven't seen Survival.
Survival of the Dead, I sadly give thumbs down to, and again, we'll talk about it when we do a Of the Dead show proper, but it's got very few things that work, and most of it don't, but I don't want to speak negatively on the tribute podcast. But yeah, it's not that great.
I guess the thing for Diary and Survival is that it didn't seem to follow where he was going.
Yeah, except Diary, a lot of
Land, because Land kind of felt like the end of it. It was his comeback to finish the trilogy, and at that point, it was like, okay, zombies are starting to gain some semblance of consciousness.
Yeah,
and that
which
was
he
the
started
point
with
of that film.
Day of the Dead, which he started with Bub.
Right?
And Day of the
Dead.
Dead.
It was a continuation.
Yeah,
but that was like, we'd already worked ourselves down to this apocalyptic end. So did Diary of the Dead almost? Those movies don't exist.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you're right.
And it was like a reboot.
Yeah.
And it even made fun. They were making a zombie movie in the woods.
Yeah.
When
I didn't like that. That was too Blair Witchy for me. But what he does with it once they get on the road and the zombie attack starts happening, it works for me.
The hospital scene was good.
It's fantastic. When they go in the house, her house.
Yeah, the hold up in the mansion.
Mm-hmm.
There was good stuff about it, but I didn't like that
he's above the shaky cam.
Yeah, that he buried the other 4 films.
Yeah.
I wanted, if there was going to be another Dead film, I wanted it canon.
I was always hoping for, and now sadly we will never get unless somebody else does it. I was always hoping for, because I've seen them both in the last 5 years and they both look fine. Let's go revisit Galen Ross and she gets a lot of talk on this podcast.
Yeah.
Galen Ross and Ken Foray. Let's go see
they're both alive.
What they're doing now. See, their baby's an adult now.
Yeah.
Let's get that going and have a whole new adventure, quote unquote, with them fighting zombies and starting a new life. That's what I wanted to do. And after Land of the Dead, which I liked, you're right. He buried the rest of them.
Yeah,
he just buried them all.
It became non-canon.
And I never understood why he would want to do that.
And he's done other great films. The Dark Half.
The Dark Half, I'm a big fan of. I just rewatched it 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Because and it's so weird. I recorded it. I DVR'd it.
And that's awesome. You know what? I haven't looked at what King said. I'm sure.
No, King posted on his Twitter. Yeah,
something.
It was short, but I'm sure he's really.
Yeah, they were good.
He's
friends.
really hurt.
They were really good friends. And Slash and Kirk Hammond and Rob Zombie all posted.
Oh yeah,
stuff.
I read all that stuff.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt posted something.
Really, Patton Oswalt?
Oh, he's a huge fan.
Yeah.
But I had DVR'd.
Like
I love him.
Funny little guy.
I've seen him live.
Yeah.
I DVR'd The Dark Half about a month ago. And I said, yeah, I'll get to it. George Romero dies. I'm watching it tomorrow. And I watched it, and I already like it, but there was something about watching it, because it wasn't one of his dead films.
You want to hear what Dark Half is? It's the good Secret Window.
There you go.
Secret Window was
I don't hate Secret Window, but I didn't like it. But I didn't like it. It wasn't bad.
It
just didn't work.
It had 2 of my favorite actors. It had Johnny Depp, and it has John Turturro. I love John Turturro.
But it doesn't have John Turturro.
But it was good in the movie.
But
the movie was just
it was pedestrian. I'm not the
bad.
biggest David Koepp fan, but no, you're right. I love that you said that. It's the good secret window.
Yeah, it's the good secret window.
It's great.
Yeah.
And you know what? It cost, I believe, $16 million, the dark half, and it made 8. And if you notice, that was his last Hollywood-funded film.
His last production.
He went back to indie stuff. It's a damn good movie. I like it a lot. I think Tim Hutton at the time had never played a role like that, and he was great.
Yeah.
And I also heard he was a bit of a dick on set. Romero said he didn't get along with him because Tim Hutton didn't like what Romero was having him do. And I'm thinking, Tim, you signed on for a horror movie directed by one George Romero. You might have to do some bad stuff.
Yeah.
There might be some blood. I know you have your Oscar for Ordinary People, but lighten up.
I wish you just put his 6'6" mitts on him and slapped the shit out of him.
Yeah, right. George was a big man.
George was a big man.
But very quickly, the dark half. Its length is a problem, and George Romero is from a Stephen King story, and George Romero wrote the screenplay on his own and directed it, and Romero does this. He makes long movies. Night Riders, which we haven't talked about, is almost 3 hours. We'll get to that in a second because I want to say something about that very quickly.
And also another Stephen King adaptation, Monkey Shot.
Yeah, well, we're getting there too. But its length is the problem, but the dark half is and the ending kind of peters out. It just kind of stops, and you're like,
Yeah.
But every performance is good. Michael Rooker, Amy Madigan as his wife, Timothy Hutton in 2 roles. Ed Harris isn't in it, but thank you.
Wait, no, not Knight Rider.
Michael Rooker.
Michael.
I'm talking dark half. And,
okay.
Yeah. No. And it's a great film. I think it's a great one, and I think it's one that needs to be seen by more people. Night Riders, yes, great movie. Ed Harris is, in fact, in that one.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know who gives the...
I thought you'd already jumped to that one.
No. You have a movie with Ed Harris. I mean, the idea... Number one, the idea. Let's... Very quickly.
They must have been friends, because Ed Harris had his bit role in...
Creep Show.
Yeah.
Don't lay down on that grape. Oh.
I love the noise that he makes before the grave falls on him.
Yeah.
It's comical.
Smoking. Yeah, that's good. But Night Riders, the idea is fantastic. A bunch of motorcycle gang dressing up and living like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah,
like Camelot.
And
living it.
And they're part-time production.
It's not a show.
Trying to get they
do a show, but they live it.
Yeah, but they're trying to get signed. They're trying to stay away from cops. It's a little bit of everything.
And you got a movie with Ken Foree and starring Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Who gives the best performance in Night Riders?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
And I love me
I'm
some
asking
Ed Harris. That's
Tom Savini.
Yeah, Tom Savini was really good.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
He was the playboy, showboat, wanting to make the money, challenge the king, and he was the Sir Lancelot of the piece.
Exactly.
He was great. And luckily that led to other cool parts in other movies throughout his career. But Night Riders is a blast. Is it too long? Sure.
Yeah, it's too long.
By about 40 minutes, but it's a blast.
Yeah, it's fun. and he makes enjoyable films. And
Monkey Shines. Oh no, go ahead.
Just to step back real quick, just talking about Ed Harris and that they must have been friends and they popped up in some stuff. I do love Ed Harris.
I've always loved Ed Harris.
I recently rewatched Apollo 13, one of my all-time favorites.
That's a great film. Rest in peace, Bill Paxton.
Yeah, and when I first saw Bill Paxton, I almost got choked up. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, it's horrifying.
I'm so hungry I'll eat the ass out of a dead rhinoceros, Damn. But Ed Harris was great in that, and I'm glad to see Ed back in something big with HBO's new, well, it's not new anymore,
Westworld.
I guess, hit series Westworld, which was fantastic, and he was fantastic.
Good. Yeah, no, he was fantastic.
He was great.
Ed Harris is one of our finest character actors. The complexity
to his character. You know, he is the scumbag. He is the antagonist. And by the end of that first season, you're like, is he?
And I'm trying to talk myself into going back for season 2. I was a little bored.
I loved it. I and most of the world, we loved it.
I know it.
It was fantastic.
But no, Ed Harris is one of our finest character actors. Him and Tommy Lee Jones, two of the best character actors to ever grace the screen. Not a fucking sense of humor between the two of them. But no, like you're right. Yeah, Ed Harris must have struck a chord with Romero and vice versa for doing those two films.
Yeah,
almost back to back. Was back to back. Night Riders, then Creepshow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Night Riders. Monkey Shines. It's not a long movie, but it takes a little bit to get going. But it's good. It's a solid film.
And once it's rolling, like when you're in the latter half of that film, it's tense. It's very, very tense.
Sure.
And you know there are moments that you're just like, oh shit, what are you gonna do now?
That's great, and it's old. Everybody's seen it.
Oh, and we're forgetting a film
when he kills the monkey at the end by like a monkey.
Yeah.
Like an animal, he grabs it by his neck and boom, 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 because he's paralyzed from the neck down. So all he can do is, I love Monkey Shine. I saw it in a theater in '88 in college in Florida, and I said, man, this is not a great movie, but effective, and it's a good film. Over the years, I've gravitated towards it occasionally.
And then
what did we miss? Did we miss one?
We're missing a collab between him and Dario Argento.
Oh, yeah, Two Evil Eyes.
Paying tribute to H.P. Lovecraft. They both did short Lovecraft stories.
One is successful, one is okay.
And unfortunately, his was the okay.
Romero's is the okay one.
Romero's was the okay.
But you know who's great in Romero's?
It wasn't bad. It was some creepiness.
Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah. But compared to what Argento's was.
Argento's Black Cat was the way to do it.
Black Cat's Poe, by the way.
Both there. I said Lovecraft. They're both of their tributes to Poe, to Edgar Allan Poe.
You know what was great about Romero's besides that finale? Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah.
Really? You thought she was a bitch in Creepshow?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a great. I mean, it's and a lot of people when they think about horror movies and you say somebody gave a good or a great performance in a horror film, they think cheesy great. No. Barbeau in the Romero segment of Two Evil Eyes is wonderful. Wonderful.
There's something about her eyes when she looks
I've never seen them. I can't look up.
I know.
Apologies to John Carpenter, John Carpenter's son, Cody, and to Miss Barbeau herself.
No. But I mean, when she gives the evil eye to somebody, she looks like a bitch.
Yeah.
But when she's playing in The Fog and she's running the radio station, there's none of that. When she's Stevie Wayne, she's cool and her eyes look very nice and like she looks approachable. Like you'd walk right up to her and be like, "Hey."
She is approachable.
But then you see her in how she acts and talks in Creepshow and in Two Evil Eyes, and you're like, I wouldn't even want to try. She'd skin me alive.
Right. Very quickly, because this is a Romero podcast, but I have a quick story about Adrienne Barbeau. I was speaking with her once, and she was. This is when I was working on.
Did she say, "Hey, my eyes are up here"?
Yeah, hey, buddy, up here, fella. So I wiped the drool and I looked her in the eye and I said, no. But she said to me, we were talking, and mind you, just chatting. I want that out there that I was shooting the shit with Adrienne Barbeau.
That's pretty cool.
And it was in a bar. But she said, "So what are you doing?" I said, "I'm working on my first film," and that did come to fruition, of course. But it came to fruition. Hey, who cares? But she said, "Who's doing?" This is her, just out of the blue. "Who's doing your music?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna compose some, themes and just." And she says, our John and I's son, like we're old friends. John and I's son Cody do music. You should. He'd probably cost a little bit of money. I don't know what your budget is, but you should email him. And I never got that email. I wish I would have. I would have held on to it until I did a different film. But that I thought that was kind of cool about Adrienne Barbeau.
That's very cool.
She didn't know me from Adam. I just said I was working on a film. I was writing film reviews for a magazine, and so on and so on. So, you know. But anyway, yeah, that's my story. Unfortunately, mine couldn't be about George Romero. But she was in 2 Romero movies, so there you go.
She was, so she fit.
Yeah.
And God, I would love to meet her.
She's fantastic. We should find her.
She seems fun too. You know what I mean?
She was so nice,
fun.
and she was very nice to my wife. They chatted like a couple of housewives, you know, that have known each other for. She was very, and mind you, the conversation was less than 20 minutes, but yeah, and it was just wonderful.
Longer than 2.
Yeah,
you know
right.
What I mean?
Longer than hi, can I have your autograph? But yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my story. George Romero, rest in peace.
George.
Yeah, I think we hit all his films, but again, we weren't trying to go one by one. But you know, we spoke, and it's okay if we go a little long. But the last thing I want to say, the last major thing I want to say is we spoke about our many times, our Mount Rushmore of horror, and a buddy of mine, Nate Gordon, actually used that phrase the other day about something else, but. He is on the Mount Rushmore of horror, and he has been for me since I first saw Night of the Living, Night of the Living Dead, but then Dawn of the Dead solidifies it. All right, start chiseling the rock,
right?
Because he's on there.
If I'm going to make my Mount Rushmore of horror, I'm going to exclude Argento only in that he is not an American filmmaker. Otherwise,
and by God, in this day and age. It's America
he
first.
Might even get I love Argento so much. He might even get a slightly larger head separated from the others.
See, I'm not sure what to do.
But
I need 5.
Yeah.
Can I have a 5? It has to be 5 because you can't leave Argento out.
Okay, so we're gonna make it a 5 head. And
I would rather leave one person out, but I know I can't.
You can't.
And I'm sorry, horror fans.
And you can't. No, I mean he created iconic characters.
I know.
But 2 down. On the list, we have lost Wes.
We have lost Wes Craven. We have lost 2 of the Mount Rushmores. Yes.
Yeah, Wes Craven, and now George has joined them. And man,
John Carpenter, if you're listening, stop smoking, eat your greens, do push-ups, whatever you have to do, sir. Don't die.
Just eat babies. Get those stem cells. Just
or
raw,
eat babies,
whole babies,
I guess.
Just eat them. And
or we could go Dracula with it and just eat babies. Yeah.
And Tobe Hooper, do the same thing.
Yeah, Toby's getting long in the tooth.
Yep. Tobe,
and
stay good.
Our thoughts go out to Tobe Hooper. I don't know if you know, but
no.
About a month or 2 ago, less than 2 months ago, he's dating a younger woman, and he was the victim of physical abuse. He had to go. He was hospitalized, and he posted on his Twitter, and you can see his face all messed up. And he's an elderly man now.
So someone did this over a woman?
He's in his mid to late 70s. No, they got into an argument, and I guess he didn't know she was a psychopath.
Oh, she did it to him.
She did it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she abused him. And, so I hope Toby's recovering all right, and next time we talk to him, we hope there's no scars.
I'm with you, Toby. Those crazy women are crazy good in bed.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Maybe not worth it.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But, you're right. We've lost 2 of the Mount Rushmore, and no offense to Craven. Man, this one. You know what I mean? I feel bad when...
Yeah, but we were talking about it the other day, and once we talked about it a little longer, you did say, yeah, he deserves to be there.
No, Craven does. Craven does.
I mean, just genre-changing films.
Just based on Last House on the Left and Nightmare alone.
Yeah. And then Scream, which was, lighter-hearted and whatever, but it was still just
But I feel bad because when I did... we didn't have...
It's all about that guy right there.
I know it is.
I mean...
It's about... He's pointing at a Freddy Krueger poster. Yeah.
Freddy Krueger was such a big iconic character that he makes up for any flaws.
Sure. But
that Craven had.
I feel bad because we didn't have this podcast going when Craven died, and so I did a tribute, me and Bill, on widescreen, and I kind of spent a lot of it saying, well, I don't like that. Well, I don't like that. Whereas our George podcast, look at this body of work and look at what he did, and my God, not to take away from Craven, I'm just saying, for me,
now did him and Barbeau have a thing for a little while?
No.
Okay, they didn't.
No, Carpenter was married to Adrienne Barbeau for years.
Well, I know Carpenter was,
yeah,
but I know she did a Wes Craven film with Swamp
Thing. Yeah, she did.
She also busted out her
gun. She did. Yeah. Oh, was there a monster? I didn't see it in that movie. I just saw her floating around through the air.
Swamp tits.
Right. But no, Romero and Carpenter to me are the two biggest faces on my Mount Rushmore, and God damn it, we lost one. And yeah,
I'd say you're right, and Argento.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
for me, Argento would be just as large as those two.
My father said years ago, once you cross into your 40s, as the older you get, your icons, your heroes are going to start dropping over and over and over and faster and faster and faster. And we've lost a lot, a lot. And in the music world, in the film world, whatever. But Romero, George A. Romero.
The biggest.
Yeah, one of the biggest influences on me, and style-wise. Like a lot of the times when I look at something, if I'm trying to piece together a scene or something, or thinking of something and I'm writing it down, horror-wise, mind you, I've got the Goblin music going. It's either Goblin music or Carpenter music going in my head to fit a scene, and it's just the astounding influence that George A. Romero had on the horror filmmaking world is just, it's ridiculously, well, it's astounding. I believe I just said that.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, we won't run them down, but I mean, to this day, I mean, to Shaun of the Dead, to The Walking Dead, to the Dead video games. There's zombie kits. They're teaching. It's a fun, stupid class. Zombie apocalypse classes.
Costumes, bumper stickers, comic books.
And you know what?
You name it. T-shirts.
You know what?
Websites. Everything. Dolls, toys.
Right.
Everything.
You know what? Anybody under the age of 20 thinks it all started with The Walking Dead or Shaun of the Dead. But everything started in 1968 with George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, and I think that says it all.
I think that's...
And my screen went blank right as I said that. That's fantastic. I couldn't have written that better. Yeah. But, I mean, that says it all about George Romero.
And it does. And, I'll just finish by saying he's irreplaceable. We lost one of the greatest filmmakers of all time.
It was a tough day.
We lost someone who was not afraid to go to places other people hadn't been before.
Yeah, he did. And he was also not afraid to, all right, you're having fun with the horror here, and we're having a good time. But here's a little mirror, society. Look at that. This is how the horror came about in this movie because of this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
that's why him and King understood each other so well, because in the end, most of Stephen King's works are about the horror of man underneath this whole supernatural thing going on.
Right.
There's still the horrors of man, the Mrs. Carmody's, the whatever. You know what I mean? That human character.
Yeah. But he's brilliant, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Whatever. He's just perfect. He was perfect.
The man.
Is every movie perfect? No. Has there ever been a director that did every movie perfect? No. But he was a master, and he's going to be greatly missed. And I still cannot believe that I am now waking up in a world without the great George A. Romero. I never thought I'd...
And if there was ever a time for a real zombie, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, really. Second act?
Yeah,
let's
seriously.
roll, buddy. And
Seriously.
Very quickly, I think we live as fans of the arts, be it music, stage, screen, TV, whatever. The people in front of and behind the scenes that we grow to love I think and this is a perfect example, I think we live in denial. I think we live in denial that there's always going to be another Romero movie. There's always going to be another Kubrick movie. There's always going to be another Kurosawa. And then one day we wake up. Wait, who died? Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Never again.
They're mere mortals. I forgot about that.
And once they're gone, that's it.
Yeah, and of course, coming up with George Romero and John Carpenter in my youth, so they've always been a part of my life. And Carpenter, especially musically and film. But George Romero and John Carpenter have been with me since I was 11, 12, 13 years old. I'm 48 now, and I'm no longer living in denial because these guys are dying. And I hate to end it on a sad note, but everybody's in their 70s now that I grew up with, and we collectively have just got to prepare ourselves for these moments. They're going to hurt and they're going to hit hard.
Yeah.
I remember the day Robert Shaw died.
Yeah.
In, I believe it was 78 or 9. My dad was unconsolable for about 24 hours. It killed him. The day John Wayne died. Same thing, These are the guys. When he was a kid, he wanted to be John Wayne. That kind of thing.
The icon.
And it's hard. And when Roy Orbison died in the 90s, I saw my dad go through that, and it's hard. And I don't think we can't live in denial anymore. I'm speaking to us of our age groups now, because these people are old, and it's going to be time soon for all of them, and we just have to saddle up and enjoy them while they're here, and when they're gone, speak well of them and just bask in the glory of all they left behind, if I may be hyperbolic on the situation there.
And I think that will be easy in this case to speak fondly of them. I think the world is speaking fondly of George right now.
It is, and I admit I'm shocked that there were not just horror people, but just tons of people, in the business.
That movie reached everybody.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead, you are under a rock somewhere.
If you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead and call yourself a horror fan, then stop calling yourself a horror fan.
It's crazy. If you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead, go do it now. Now.
No offense to any listeners that may think this way. If you are a horror fan and you call the 2004 Dawn of the Dead better than 1979, don't call yourself a horror fan. Thank you very much.
And it's not a bad film. I enjoy it.
No,
it was directed by Tom Savini. It was executive produced.
Directed by Zack Snyder.
Oh, no, 2004. Sorry, I thought you were talking about that.
We're talking about Savini's Night of the Living Dead remake, which we didn't mention, but it's great. Yeah. It's great. I love it.
And that was executive
Bill
produced
Moseley.
by...
Yeah. And written by George Romero. He wrote the screenplay.
And directed by Tom Savini, and it was good.
It was very good. I enjoy it. But
I guess on that note,
we should end it. I got hyperbolic enough. I don't need to sit here and start spouting. Yeah.
I think I'll end with these last words, and then I'll say nothing else. First off, I'll say good night to everybody, and then I'll say rest in peace, George.
Rest in peace, George A. Romero. We will miss you. You are still here. And stay scared, everybody. We stole that phrase from Mr. George A. Romero himself. And we will see you next time on the Theater of Blood Horror Show. Goodbye.